So when I started the company, I had no intention to be in the BLE business.
How'd that turn out for you?
Well, it's turning out very good because it turns out that when we built the architecture, we were trying to build a real-time distributed cloud architecture that could ingest data at scale like Twitter and Netflix. When we started talking to customers, it became clear with this convergence of BLE Wi-Fi happening. More and more customers were dealing with this. They basically said, hey, can you help me get rid of this or virtualize this? Which led to, yeah, guys, I can help you solve this problem here. So what we started with is, the first thing I did, and I'd been doing, back in aerospace, I'd worked with Wi-Fi location and all that stuff for a long time. This time around, I said, you know what? We want to basically be able to leverage machine learning to actually see if we can't solve the path loss model. And this is the problem of, hey, when you get into these RSSI-based location solutions, you've got to figure out this RSSI versus distance thing, right? So what I started with is I started with these guys. I stuck a whole bunch of these on the ceiling, and I said, well, let me see if I can even solve that problem. I figured out, hey, I could solve that problem. I could basically stick these up on the ceilings, and I could figure out what the path loss model was for each one of these devices and for the APs. So I said, hey, that works amazingly. I had tried it back in my aerospace days, and we really just didn't have the compute power to do it. Now we actually have all the compute power we need to actually solve that type of problem. But the problem then was, hey, you really don't want to have a whole bunch of these stuck on your ceiling with batteries in it. That led to, can we basically trade in, and this is basically what a lot of the other vendors are doing, right? They're sticking one of these little things inside their AP and hoping that, and calling that BLE. So I said, instead of having all the spatial diversity, I will basically try to trade in spatial diversity for antenna diversity. And so this is the beginnings of my antenna venture. For those who like antennas, not bad tech art too, right? I could probably put a shade on it and sell it as tech art. So that got me into the antenna business. And then Sudheer said, make it smaller. I said, make it look better, which led to this. So this is basically a little array that has 16 elements and basically does 8 directional beams. And I think we'll talk about the technology a little bit later, right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of an introduction to how we got into the BLE business. As I said before earlier, I think what we're seeing is a big convergence of BLE Wi-Fi. It's really starting with all our B2B2C customers. But I think you hinted to it, Stan, when you talk about putting clients on the device, BLE inherently means mobile app. I think even our carpeted enterprise guys are going to start to leverage that to get analytics, the client view, into their network analytics side.
So with that, we'll actually start the BLE demo a little bit. So for location, we do 5 things. We monitor 5 things. I think in the industry, we're the first ones to do all 5 of these on the same platform. So step 1, obviously, everybody looks at connected Wi-Fi clients. We do that. Unconnected Wi-Fi clients. We do that. We have a third dedicated scanning radio on this to do that. Then we start to look at these blue people here are mobile app users. These guys have our SDK in the mobile app. You can start to look at them. And then that's the third one. Fourth one is asset tags, right? So these are BLE asset tags. We've given it to our employees. Lots of interesting use cases. We feel, and the push we're getting from a lot of our customers is the current, RTLS business is very vertically sort of locked, right? You have to buy that vendor's badges, tags, whatever, and the full stack. BLE would give them an open market to go buy whatever tags. And so that's sort of the initial interest. And we're going into some verticals that you wouldn't think do RTLS. So education as an example, with all the security stuff that's happening with in schools, people are using badges for kids as an example just to know where they are. So that's the fourth one, right? So connected, unconnected, mobile apps, asset tags, and then the last one is, if you really wanted to, you could see all the BLE devices, just the Fitbits, Apple Watches, all that kind of stuff, right? And so again, it could get pretty thick and pretty ugly, and but that's, you could get all of this data, and there's different purposes for each of these data elements, right? So I'll start with the mobile app users.
Yeah, the one thing I would add here, if you notice this is all happening 1 second. Every second that's being updated. So that's kind of the power of a real-time architecture, basically instantly turning these requests around in hundreds of milliseconds.
How is the, I'm sorry, go ahead, Keith.
Just a quick question on asset tags, just the standard little
BLE
cheap
tag,
BLE?
yeah.
Yeah. So you don't need any fancy, anything special?
Nope. Sorry.
Obviously, time is huge with the BLE and location awareness and stuff like that. But I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know a whole bunch about BLE yet. It's something that I really want to jump into.
Yeah.
But as far as being able to report it that quickly, I mean, that's impressive to me. I mean, is that what most vendors are doing? I don't know, honestly. I mean, that's really
So
impressive.
I'll give you the state of the art before I think virtual BLE came about. I used to sell a lot of connected mobile experiences, and so the state of the art was tens of seconds of latency on the mobile app. It was good. Wi-Fi was great for analytics, and some of the high density Wi-Fi was good for analytics. But anything that involved a mobile app and a user, that's when the equation flipped, right? Because now with BLE, we don't require the device to be transmitting anything, right? We've made the indoor location like an outdoor GPS, and the idea is we are receiving these beams, harnessing them, sending to the cloud, getting location back. So if the device isn't transmitting a single packet, Wi-Fi would struggle to triangulate it, but BLE, it's receiving beacons. And the advantage, one simple advantage we have compared to everybody else out there in the industry is out of this is coming, the 16 and 10 element pair, 8 beams are coming out. So 8 times 5, 40 beams a second. We have tremendous data fidelity on the device, right? And so now, let me show you that in this particular users, for example, for that particular device, I could actually see from the device's vantage point, that device is seeing those 8 beams, those 8 beams, those 8 beams, those 8 beams, right? So it's actually, and Bob's going to show you at a real customer scenario as well, you can actually now, if you have that kind of data fidelity, you can get very high accuracy and low latency, right? And that's the whole holy grail here. Bob, I'm going to let you comment on this.
Yeah, so I mean, as I said, back in my aerospace adventure, I did Wi-Fi location, right? Built little boxes and everything, and it was, for this time, it was good. It was like, 10 seconds or so, we could get an estimate made and everything. But the big limitation on Wi-Fi is we were dealing with probes. We didn't have enough information, right? We had, you can kind of think of the problem with wayfinding, right? The guy walks every second, all that information from 3 seconds, throw it away. You don't care about it anymore. So the key that makes this BLE stuff work is the amount of information I get to make averaging work, right? So we may have up to 5 of these arrays sending each 40 beacons a second. So I may have up to 200 beacons a second to work with. So all you're confident, all that 2 sigma divided by square root n stuff works, right? I get enough data to make sure I'm confident in my estimates. The other piece here you see here is what we've done here is on the AI side is we now turn all those RSSIs into probability surfaces. And so you can actually have up to 40 different beams voting where you are into space. So this is an example of a actual, our mall in Miami, right? So you're actually watching, this is the actual raw blue dot that's coming up in the engine. This is the actual dot that the user sees as he's walking down the mall. And what you're seeing here, in addition to this is something we've just, I don't think we really released this yet, right? So this is our
not out.
Yeah, so this is basically our what we call our RF glasses that provides our partners complete visibility into these location deployments. Because the biggest challenge of location deployments is trying to get everything up and running and confirm it's working right. So now with this, you've got complete visibility every second coming out. You know exactly how well you're seeing all the different arrays. You also know that arrow there is giving you the directionality. You don't see it down here. You actually see, because we're also bringing back all the sensor data from the phone, right? Your compass and your accelerometer. So all that is getting fused together. And as I said, I didn't start this, but it turned out that the architecture lended itself well, right? Because I could already process data at volume and turn it around quickly.
All of this, though, is data pulled from the phone. So we're beaconing in the air. The phone's hearing it, and then the phone is reporting it back up to you. And then we're not processing from the infrastructure view. We're processing from the client view.
No. Here, what's happening here is this phone here is hearing all these beacons, and every second sending back all that stuff to the back end.
So it's not. So the phone is connected to the cloud, not the infrastructure.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Probably the third thing is on asset tracking. So this is the wayfinding experience. Asset tracking is the inverse of that. We're listening.
First question.
How much of this data ties back into the Wi-Fi? So like, let's say you have all of this data, there's now an influx of people going to one specific area. Will that change an algorithm in wireless to say, all right, I predict there's going to be a lot of potential Wi-Fi users. I'll change different settings in the wireless network?
Yeah, I mean, you're preempting a little bit of at the end of what's next right now. So when you look at the convergence of Wi-Fi and BLE, we think there are two things coming up. One is geospatial analysis. The problem with Wi-Fi location, you really don't have enough resolution. It's on the order of thousands of square feet. You basically get nearest AP resolution. With BLE now, we get enough resolution, we can actually start applying image processing. I can actually get enough resolution that I can actually see what's going on in a building. And probably third is your client view. Right now we're working mostly with marketing B2C guys on this stuff. The network analytics, I think what we'll see is enterprise carpeted guys will start leveraging this as they start bringing this back into their analytics, right? They'll be able to bring back the BLE location, and they'll also be able to get the client's view of the world back into their network.
So on that, let's say I fall in love with Mist's virtual BLE.
Not already?
Fall in love with the BLE side, but I've got a big established wireless network from another vendor, and I'm not going to rip and replace that, yet I want to leverage Mist. What's the answer to that?
So the answer to that is the BT11. This is the BLE only.
Actually an AP21, but
AP21 looks the same. Kind of like there's BLE in here. There is actually BLE in here. This has both Wi-Fi and BLE, but we have a BLE only version. So we have a lot of deployments like that where we're just deployed alongside some existing Wi-Fi network.
And so the notion of overlay brings up questions, and I know it's not easy to answer, but what's the ratio? How many APs to that thing, or how many square feet per something like that? Now, again, I know it's going to vary, but is there a rule of thumb just to kind of get the juices flowing? Or?
I would say a rule of thumb when we do wayfinding, we're deploying these probably every 15 or so meters up and down hallways. When we do kind of big open areas, like big open retail stores, we're deploying at kind of high density Wi-Fi things, 2,000 square feet type of numbers.
Yeah.
So when you're showing the kind of the blue dot experience, right, the wayfinding experience, and then you have the asset tracking, which is like a passive, I'm listening for another type of beacon. Are those mutually exclusive? I can run one or the other, or can I run both at the same time?
You can run both at the same time. So we have customers who will have this thing bounce between transmit and receive. There's a compromise when you do that. Typically what we find is most customers will put these in the hallways for 100% wayfinding, and then they'll put some of these in rooms for asset tracking. They'll have kind of a hybrid combination, but you can do both.
Yeah. So thinking about deploying this in some type of environment, when you're doing the BTE tracking for a smartphone, for example, have you guys done any type of looked at battery life? What are you doing to that device battery-wise? And so, for example, if we look at a user for an 8-hour shift perspective, do you see any issues there?
Yeah, I mean, so the typical usage on the app phone, and this is back to my Skype reference, same with data, it looks like a Skype call. It turns out when you turn on this phone, most of your energy is in the display. The display is sucking down most of your power. Mm-hmm. But the BLE location looks like a Skype call impact on your phone. I mean, so if you and typically most people don't use it at long segments. They usually pull their phone out, they do something, they put it back in, get what they need.
There was a question on Twitter to touch on licensing around what it takes to do this. Someone wanted some clarification.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll do that. From a licensing perspective, we're pretty simple. Each of the services are independently licensed. They're mutually exclusively licensed. So you buy the Mist AP and you buy the wireless assurance license, you get the full stack, including guest access and warranty, support, everything's built in. There is no other support license or anything else you would buy. That's for the Wi-Fi. For the BLE, there are two licenses. One is for if you are deploying mobile apps, we call that the engagement license. If you're buying assets, that's the visibility license. And those three are the only three we have. All of them include support.
And analytics.
And analytics are built in. A lot of other things are built in. So I'm going to keep this moving along very quickly. We are the first and only vendors doing sort of machine learning on a per device basis, so that we're trying to eliminate a very important step in our whole BLE engagement deployment process, which is calibration, right? Typically today, when you deploy Bluetooth beacons, you would deploy it, and then you'd go, I'm here now, I'm here now, I'm here now. We are trying to actually automatically learn that path loss formula on a per device basis. As you all appreciate, an iPhone 5S is built wildly differently than an iPhone 7. And we adapt to that and understand that. And that's sort of this whole model here. Bob, I don't know if you want to.
This is what I call the true power of data science. Because what you're seeing here is unsupervised machine learning. So what's happening here is people walk around and hear these actual beacons through the air. You're taking those RSSI values and you're figuring out what is the path loss model in this actual area for that device. When you think about it, it's like, how did that happen? It's pretty tricky, but that's the magic of math, and that's the magic of having unlimited AWS servers at your disposal.
And to compare and contrast this is what every other Wi-Fi vendor with a BLE chip in their AP doesn't do, right? Because, and you all know devices are not, all devices are not created equally. So I'm going to keep moving. Oops.
Sudheer, this is, maybe a fairly evident question, but just to be clear there, like, if your backend AI is learning specifics about a particular client, that the benefits of that data cross customers, right? Like, the calibration that happens before I become a Mist customer benefits me as a Mist customer tomorrow, right?
Yeah. So this is the power of global data, right? As we start to learn all these different devices, I can now tell you what the difference is between a Samsung, an iPhone, and HTC, and all that information can also be applied to the algorithms more. So that is the power of global, having a global data view across all these enterprises and all these devices.
Makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing we do all the time, right? We all work for different organizations, but there's a lot of Slack time going, hey, has anybody seen this?
Correct.
And inevitably, the more people that you can talk to say, oh yeah, I run into that before, here's what we did, right?
Correct.
And that's a huge benefit for us.
Yeah, and the whole notion is to not have to do that, in silos, right? My old joke used to be, when a controller went down, and I used to be a controller product manager, nobody knew. I didn't know. I could care less. I should care, but now, if the cloud coughs, we all wake up, right? We have become an implicit managed service provider for all our partners and our customers, both on location and Wi-Fi. And let me show you, and Keith, you asked about, are we taking any stats and data from the clients and using them? Here's an example, because location has been so hard to deploy, we actually take from the client side this time around the jitter, the latency and jitter for every SDK client, and we're now calibrating, is it a network issue? If I'm having, jitter, if my blue dot isn't performing, I have SLE metrics for location as well, right? And now this is based on SDK data, and so it will tell me, if I have location latency, is it because, is it because of the cloud? Is it because of the Wi-Fi? Is it because of the WAN? We know that, and this is, our SDK already does some amount of this client view. And then going back to, now if I have that data from the SDK, I map that to the Wi-Fi SLE map. we are able to blend Wi-Fi and BLE data for network assurance, right? Not just location. And that's actually, we're excited about that, and that's pretty powerful.
Is that
I have a
SDK
question.
only for Bluetooth, or does it also apply?
The
to
SDK is Bluetooth, but we actually have a system where we map with this Bluetooth client is this Wi-Fi client, and boom. And so when I tag the SLE of that individual client for the Wi-Fi data, I'm going to say at that time his Bluetooth said this, right? And so we are able to bring that together.
Is there some missed way to design Wi-Fi differently than we normally do for other?
Nope. High density Wi-Fi design, that everything that you guys all learn and have perfected, that's what we do. And in fact, you do a high density Wi-Fi design, the BLE is sort of built into that. That's what we've built it for, right? And one thing that, Lee, that to your question, this AP, the BT11, if let's say you have an overlay network, you've already just bought another vendor's Wi-Fi and it was working great, you can actually take that Ethernet cable, plug this into it, and this AP can power a Wi-Fi AP as well. So we have PoE out on this thing. You do not have to run additional cable to put our BLE as a parallel overlay if you choose to.
With that BT only, does it also still have that listening third radio so we can get some Wi-Fi stats off of it too?
That's the AP21. We have an AP for that.
Oh.
Yeah, so it does cost more.
Do you guys have your APs and antennas in Ekahau and Air Magnet yet?
Yes. I believe in both of them, Ekahau for sure.
Can you daisy chain?
Yes, you can daisy chain these. So you can take one of these and you can have 3 APs downstream.
3 BT,
so 3 beacon points downstream. So if you're doing BLE only, if you brought an AT port to this thing, you can have 3 of them downstream. So 4 of them on one AT port.
One cable.
So when you talked about RF design, RF's one thing, but we're talking about beamforming on the Bluetooth antennas.
Yeah.
There's got to be some limits to how high I can put them
That's
to actually
for sure. So the height restrictions for us are best practices. We go up to, we've done more than 15 feet, but in general, we've done up to 15 feet high ceilings, or you put in an L bracket on a wall. And again, we run into obviously warehouse scenarios, retail scenarios where it goes higher, and we say, do it on the wall in the L bracket. So far, it's been great. We have done a casino with about 20 plus feet. We don't like to do that, but it is a simpler use case, and we're doing it, right? So,
I had a quick question just from Twitter, from Sean Bender. He asked, and I know Blake's been talking with him a little bit about it, but he asked if the BLE portion could pull user info and then assign it to a device from something else like LDAP or AD.
Yeah, if it's connected to our wireless network, we blend both Wi-Fi and BLE. Absolutely.
But can you actually I think what he's asking is, can you take and use the data that you've got and that you've collected through BLE and then assign it to a device that is on your Wi-Fi network?
Like location info.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Provide access
the whole
control,
point. Yeah.
granularity.
Yeah, for sure. So there are 2 ways we can tie to their AD, right? What people do is when they create the mobile app, they'll tie their user info with that SDK, and then they can tie that SDK to AD credentials, and it's beautifully connected, right? It's like your loyalty or your ID or whatever it is with that particular institution. You can tie that directly in the app, but even otherwise, you can do that as well.
There you go, Sean.
Okay, so I'll keep going. So on the asset visibility side, you get a lot of you can't see very well on this, but you get a lot of abilities to group these assets. You can actually start to track them. You can actually see where the asset has spent time on. There's use cases in healthcare where they want to know exactly how much time a doctor spent with a patient. They have to. It's another source, a second factor of authentication that that doctor in fact did visit that patient room. Today they do that manually. There's all kinds of use cases they're starting to think through about asset visibility.
I got a quick question from Twitter about power. As far as when you start getting with the Wave 2 APs and the BLE, how are you doing on power?
PoE plus, it has to be a PoE plus port. Okay. Yeah. Obviously the AP21 is on AF, but the AP41 is PoE plus.
And you said,
Sorry, real quick. You said AF, and then you said PoE plus. Do you mean AT when you said?
So AP41 is AT, AP21 is AF.
Okay, so you do mean AT, not
AT. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Not 60 watts.
Yes.
Okay.
and then with the beacons, you
Yes.
said 4. Is that correct? That
So
you can daisy chain
if
up
you
to 4?
connect this to an AT port, you can connect 4 of them on one port. Yeah. All right. I'll keep moving. So we did the wireless demo, the Wi-Fi BLE, and I think this is a quick view sort of the mobile app experience at Brickell Mall, right? So you basically, there's all kinds of use cases you can do, but this is a sort of a live deployment. You zoom in, you can go into the individual floor, you can go whatever. Again, nothing magical about this, but the idea is, for the first time, you can actually enable sort of turn-by-turn navigation indoors with low latency and using BLE, right? And so we have lots of hospitals. The healthcare use case is actually pretty cool. They wake you up in the bed. They say this is the time to get you to the parking, get you to the hospital. They assign a parking spot. They take you to the parking spot. Then they check you into the premise as soon as you enter. Assign a room, and they give you navigation to the room, right? Eliminating the checking line. Assign a doctor. Assign a nurse. Everything happens sort of automatically, and so all of this sort of powered with BLE. Lots of interesting use cases. Obviously, big box retail as well. This is a huge use case. All kinds of examples like that.
Do you have any specific or preferred partners for all of the front end UI app stuff, or do you just take anybody that wants to develop to it?
Actually, anybody that wants to develop to it, that has the wherewithal,
But do you have any partners?
We currently, there's Funware, Jibestream, Mycello, and Tapia. There's a whole slew of partners that we're working with. Connexient, all these partners are all done apps in different venues.
So Sudheer, on that line of thought,
This partner.
Yeah.
I know times have certainly changed. There are people who are actually doing this kind of development now, but if we kind of step back and look at when we started to do location-based Wi-Fi, this was true of certain technologies, but location-based Wi-Fi was certainly one of them, where the vendors kind of said, here's the API, somebody will do something cool with it.
Yeah.
And nothing cool ever happened with it. I was really impressed actually with you guys, with like the app worked really well. I went and dropped my basement floor plan in, created some VBLE beacons, and was walking around blue dotting within like 10 minutes. So do you guys have plans as well? And are you going to rely on the community to do cool stuff with it? Or are you guys going to keep moving along natively so that we have clients that can just go, you know what, we're going to do it all on Mist?
So I think, when it comes to indoor location, I think we all saw what happened with Wi-Fi indoor location, right?
Right.
It was kind of a healthcare story. It never went out of the healthcare. Healthcare was kind of the major customer for it. I think what is different this time is, this time around, I firmly believe that in these market transitions, these guys drive market transitions, mobile devices. Apple and Google are now putting BLE in the devices as a proximity location technology. Wi-Fi was never in your mobile device as a proximity location technology. With BLE now, Google, Apple are putting special features into the iOS, right, that can wake up apps. When this thing hears a beacon or so, they never did that for Wi-Fi. They could have, but they did not do that. So I think, from your point, I think the answer is yes. I think with BLE indoor location, BLE and indoor location are going to move from a nice to have to a must have over a broader segment.
Right.
Or more verticals. I think the overlay network, as we converge things, right, that gets rid of the overlay problem. And I think with BLE, we're actually seeing an ecosystem develop this time.
Yeah,
with Wi-Fi, we never had that
more
development.
Suitable ecosystem. I'm curious specifically if you guys are planning to go like full development on platforms so that clients can just take the Mist product, drop floor plans in, change the banners to their own logos, and provide an app, or are we really going to continue to push third party for that kind of stuff?
I think on the app side, Mist has a demo app. We have an app on the App Store.
Yeah,
for our
it's
partner.
Great.
We will, you will see us basically evolve that into an app for our partners to use to help sell it. I think what we'll see in the ecosystem is we will work with mobile app partners.
Right.
Most big companies already have a mobile app partner. We'll basically either work with them or help bring one to the table.
I'm running out of time, so I'm going to breeze through this. So the only thing that we haven't shown on the location app side is the notion of this virtual beacon, right? So the idea of being able to create beacons on the fly and be able to create beacon engagement experiences on the fly. I'll be honest, when I went to a top 5 world retailer, they said, Sudheer, you guys are a startup, you don't belong in this building. However, you are the first ones that could show us programmatically how I could deploy beacons in 5,000 stores without sending people to 5,000 stores. We just won one of the 4 large sports franchises, or rather sporting, franchises. They had beacons in 28 different stadiums. They had 3 people going in at the beginning of the season. They would go, change the batteries, calibrate the network, and then come back. 28 cities, 3 guys went. So we just won that, and they're trying to replace all of that now with this, because now they can deploy virtual beacons completely programmatically, right? So that's again very unique to us. Now,